Every game you go into it, try and just highlight guys. Miles got a game ball. I thought it was probably pretty worthy. But you're just constantly trying to recognize your guys. We spent time this morning as well pointing out all of our guys and the jobs they did. Point out Gage having a big punt return, which was huge for our team. Your D-line doesn't get 10 sacks unless the coverage is really good. Obviously, a rookie starting his first game on the road, getting a win is huge. So you acknowledge all that with your team.
Kevin, before
The Cleveland Browns fans have been through decades of heartbreak, broken promises, and coaching disasters that would make even the most loyal fans question their sanity. But Shadur Sanders' first home game at Cleveland Browns Stadium wasn't just another loss. It was something much worse, more planned, and more harmful to the future of this franchise. What we saw was nothing short of coaching malpractice, a deliberate attempt to ruin a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback talent, and the systematic destruction of any hope Browns fans had for this season. Kevin Stefanski, the so-called genius who won Coach of the Year honors twice, has finally been revealed to be what many people thought all along.
Listen, we trust all of our guys. We trust our guys to perform. He's no different. And playing a backup quarterback role, as we've talked about over the years, that's tough to come in there. But we trust him. I know there's things that he's going to want to do better, but that's why we work.
A conservative, outdated play caller who would rather die on the hill of his precious running game than give his electric young quarterback the keys to the offense. The final score of 26-8 against the San Francisco 49ers doesn't tell the whole story. The real story, the one that should have every Browns fan calling team headquarters in droves to demand action right away, is how Stefanski's outdated offensive philosophy kept one of the most exciting quarterback prospects to come into the league in years from playing. Let's get things ready here. Shadur Sanders, the son of NFL legend and cultural icon Deion Sanders, came to Cleveland with high hopes and even higher potential. This wasn't a backup getting a start because he felt sorry for the team, or a sixth-round draft pick who was still learning the ropes. This was a quarterback who had been the best in college, showing the calmness, accuracy, and football smarts that NFL scouts love. After years of failure, the Browns finally got their franchise quarterback, which was something they really needed. At least, that's what everyone thought. It doesn't matter if you have a thoroughbred stallion if you keep treating it like a plow horse.
And that's exactly what Kevin Stefanski did when Sanders should have been celebrating in front of the Cleveland fans. Stefanski went back to his old, boring, and completely useless game plan, instead of letting this young gunslinger show the NFL what he can do. Run the ball into a wall of bricks. Run it again for little gain. Put the quarterback in a third-and-long situation that is impossible, and then act surprised when the drive stops. When you look at the numbers from this game more closely, they are very bad. Shadur Sanders threw 25 passes and completed 16 of them for 149 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 sacks. At first glance, those numbers don't seem too bad for a quarterback making his first start at home, but the context is what makes them so bad. In a whole football game, Sanders could only throw the ball 25 times. 25 tries. In today's NFL, where the league has become a pass-first offensive showcase and quarterbacks throw the ball 40, 50, or even 60 times in competitive games, Stefanski had his franchise quarterback throw the ball less than some backup quarterbacks do when they are in mop-up duty. The Browns, on the other hand, ran the ball a shocking 32 times as a team. Nick Chubb and the running back committee ran the ball 31 times, and Sanders ran it once himself. 32 rushing attempts against one of the toughest defenses in football. Stefanski called for a handoff 32 times, and his running backs were eaten up by a 49ers defense that was practically begging the Browns to throw the ball. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. This is what makes this even worse. In this game, Shadur Sanders and Brock Purdy from San Francisco had almost the same stats. Purdy completed 16 of 29 passes for 168 yards and 1 touchdown. Sanders completed 16 of 25 passes for 149 yards and 1 touchdown.
almost the same amount of work done with the same amount of efficiency. The difference was that Purdy had an offensive coordinator who believed he could win the game. Purdy had a play caller who knew that you should give the ball to your playmaker and let them make plays. Purdy's coaching staff knew that they had put a lot of money into getting a quarterback to run their offense. Shadur Sanders had Kevin Stefanski as his head coach. He was so stuck in his old way of thinking about offense that he'd rather lose games by running the ball than win them by passing. And that's what happened. The Browns only got 253 yards of offense, with 115 coming through the air and 138 coming on the ground. Those kinds of offensive numbers might have won games in 1978, but in 2024, they are a sure way to lose every time. Watching the play calls throughout this game is even more frustrating. Several sources and film breakdowns have shown that Stefanski was not just cautious, he was actively hurting his quarterback with gadget plays, wildcat formations, and other silly things that should only be in a college playbook, not an NFL offense. Think about how Shadur Sanders must have felt all week getting ready to finally show the Cleveland fans what you can do, only to have to watch from the sidelines as your head coach called wildcat plays and jet sweeps that every defensive coordinator in the league saw coming from a mile away. But this isn't just about one game. This one game is a sign of a much bigger problem in the Cleveland Browns organization. This is about a football team with a record that doesn't show how talented they really are. This is about a team that finally has a real chance at getting a good quarterback, but won't build an offensive system that lets him shine. This is about a head coach who has shown time and time again that when the game is on the line, he goes back to his conservative ways and hopes that running the ball on first and second down will somehow start working. People who love the Browns aren't dumb. They've seen enough football over the years to know when a coach is doing something wrong. Fans rightfully wanted answers on social media during and after this game. How can you have a young quarterback with a lot of talent and only let him throw 25 passes? How can you keep watching your running game get stuffed play after play and not change anything? How can you say you're planning for the future when you won't put money into that future during games? The worst thing about this whole mess is that it shows how different the Browns' public statements are from what they do on Sundays. Jimmy Haslam, the team's owner, has made it clear that he wants Cleveland to have a winning culture. He has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on facilities, coaches, and players. He went out and got Shadur Sanders, which told fans that the team was finally ready to build around a young quarterback. But none of that matters if the head coach doesn't let that quarterback play. Let's talk about Jimmy Haslam for a second, because his silence after this performance speaks volumes. Haslam has never been afraid to make changes when he thinks the team isn't doing what it should be doing. In his quest for success, he has fired coaches, general managers, and even whole front office staffs. But for some reason that doesn't make sense, Kevin Stefanski seems to have a level of job security that goes against logic and results. Stefanski is still employed and seems untouchable, even though his team has had 2 seasons in a row where they didn't do well, a 3-9 record, and clear proof that his offensive philosophy is holding them back. The question that every Browns fan should be asking, and that should be on every billboard in Cleveland, is simple. What does Kevin Stefanski need to do to lose his job? How many games does he have to lose by making safe calls before someone in the organization says, that's enough? How many young quarterbacks does he have to mess up before the owners realize that they might need a new voice to lead this offense? This game against San Francisco should have been a chance for Shadur Sanders to show off. It should have been the time when the national media started to pay attention, when highlight reels started to spread, and when the story changed from the Browns are having a hard time to the young quarterback gives Cleveland hope. This time, it was just another loss that no one will remember, another chance that was missed, and another game where the best player on the field was turned into a glorified game manager because his head coach is too stubborn or scared to let him play quarterback. This situation is even more frustrating when you think about how other young quarterbacks in the league are doing. Take a look at how coaches like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and Kevin O'Neill work with their young quarterbacks. They come up with creative ways to play. They plan to get receivers open. They put their quarterbacks in situations where they can succeed and make plays. They have faith in their quarterbacks to win games, not just run them. The NFL today is all about quarterbacks, and the teams that do well are the ones that know this and build their entire offense around getting the best play out of their quarterbacks. Kevin Stefanski, on the other hand, is calling games like it's still the early 2000s. Having a strong running game is the most important thing in championship football. It isn't, newsflash. The Ravens were probably the last team to win a Super Bowl with a run-first offense. They had an all-time great defense to make up for it. You need a quarterback who can throw the ball in today's NFL, and you need a coaching staff that will let him do it.
The 3 sacks that Shadur Sanders gave up in this game also need to be looked at. Some of that is because of the offensive line, which has been a problem for Cleveland all season. But it's also because Stefanski calls plays that are easy to guess. If you run the ball on first and second down almost every time you have the ball, defenses can go after the quarterback on third down. They know exactly what's going to happen. There's nothing new, no creativity, and no changing what the defense is giving you. It's football by the book, and other defensive coordinators have completely figured it out. The fact that Shadur Sanders played well under the circumstances makes this whole thing even worse. It's pretty impressive that he completed 16 of 25 passes for a 64% completion rate while running such a limited offense. He threw a touchdown pass, didn't turn the ball over, and showed flashes of the talent that made him such a highly sought-after player. Think about how those numbers could have changed if the team had thrown 40 passes with a game plan that used pre-snap motion and play-action concepts to attack the defense vertically and make completions easier. Think about how good this offense could be if the head coach really trusted his quarterback. The Browns' offense only gained 253 yards, which put them near the bottom of the league for the week. In the NFL today, 115 passing yards is very low. To put this in perspective, some college teams threw for more yards in one quarter than the Browns did in a whole game. This isn't a problem with talent. Shadur Sanders has the arm strength, accuracy, and ability to make good decisions to do well in this league. This is only a problem with the coach and the plan. Not only should Browns fans be angry about this loss, but they should also be angry about the way the whole team is going. They've been patient through many changes of government, many rebuilds, and many quarterback changes. They finally have a young quarterback who is worth building around, but the head coach is doing everything he can to keep him from getting better and showing off his skills. At the highest level, it's bad business practice. Stefanski's use of wildcat formations and gadget plays throughout this game is worth noting because they show everything wrong with his style. These aren't NFL-level plays that are meant to win football games. These are last-ditch efforts that might work once a season to catch a defense off guard, but they don't do anything else but waste downs and ruin the offense's rhythm. When the Browns used the wildcat formation, they were basically telling the 49ers defense that they didn't trust their quarterback to run a normal play. That's not the kind of message you want to send to your starting quarterback at home for the first time. The fact that the offense isn't scoring also shows another failure of Stefanski. He can't make changes. Good coaches, great coaches, and the best coaches make changes at halftime. In the first half, they figure out what's not working and fix it in the second half. In this game, Stefanski didn't do anything like that. The Browns ran the same plays in the second half and used the same predictable strategy, which led to the same bad results. There was no creativity, no willingness to take risks, and no awareness that the current plan wasn't working. Just stubbornly sticking to a philosophy that has failed over and over again. The problems with the offensive line are real, but Stefanski's play calling makes them worse. When you keep getting into obvious passing situations because you failed to run on first and second down, you put a lot of pressure on your offensive line to stand up to defensive fronts that know exactly what's coming. The coaches are just as responsible for the 3 sacks Sanders took as the blockers are, because they should have known how to avoid them. More than ever, people are looking closely at Jimmy Haslam's choices. He decided to draft Shadur Sanders. He chose to keep Kevin Stefanski as head coach, even though more and more evidence showed that a change might be needed. Now he has to choose between his loyalty to his coach and his investment in a franchise quarterback. History shows that companies that put head coaches ahead of quarterbacks almost always regret that choice. Coaches are easier to find and not as valuable as quarterbacks. But the Browns seem set on letting their coaches decide how to train and use their most important player.
The 3-9 record is not only disappointing, it's unacceptable given how good the players are on this team. This team isn't short on playmakers or talent. This team is being held back by conservative coaching, play calling that is too predictable, and a refusal to change with the times when it comes to offensive football. Every loss makes things worse. Every missed chance makes fans even more unhappy. And every game that Shadur Sanders can't play quarterback makes the case for big changes even stronger. The difference between how other teams train young quarterbacks is very clear and bad. The Houston Texans let C.J. Stroud throw the ball more than 40 times as a rookie, trusting him to learn from his mistakes and make plays. The outcome was Offensive Rookie of the Year and a spot in the playoffs. Before he got hurt, the Indianapolis Colts gave Anthony Richardson every chance to show off his skills. Even though the Carolina Panthers are having a hard time, they let Bryce Young run a real NFL passing offense. In Cleveland, on the other hand, a quarterback with just as much, if not more talent, is being treated like a caretaker, a game manager, or someone who can't be trusted to actually quarterback. This isn't going to last. The Browns can't keep doing what they're doing and expect things to change. They can't keep Kevin Stefanski and hope that Shadur Sanders will become the quarterback they need him to be. They can't keep this offensive philosophy and expect to do well in a division with the Ravens and Bengals, both of whom have great passing offenses led by elite quarterbacks playing in systems that make the most of their skills. Something has to change, and that change should be Kevin Stefanski's job. The fans have made their voices heard. There is a lot of proof. The results speak for themselves. Kevin Stefanski ruined Shadur Sanders' first game at home by making cowardly calls, sticking to an old offensive philosophy, and refusing to let his quarterback actually play quarterback. Now we need to know if Jimmy Haslam and the Browns front office are paying attention, if they have the guts to make the changes that need to be made, or if they'll let this disaster keep ruining what could be a bright future. The fans of the Cleveland Browns deserve better. Shadur Sanders should get more. This business deserves better. The time for change isn't coming. It has already arrived. The only thing left to ask is if the owners have the vision and guts to pull the trigger and finally set this offense free from the chains of boring mediocrity. If they don't, they'll be watching Shadur Sanders reach his full potential in a different uniform with a different coaching staff while Cleveland keeps failing and being disappointed. And that would be the worst thing that could happen. What do you think, fans of the Browns? Is Kevin Stefanski actively trying to hurt this team by calling conservative plays? Jimmy Haslam should fire him right away and hire someone who knows how to use a franchise quarterback on offense. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a real conversation about the future of this team.
If you're as excited about this as I am, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more no-holds-barred Browns coverage, and hit the notification bell so you never miss when we tell you what's really going on in Cleveland. You won't find this kind of hard-hitting analysis anywhere else, so be sure to join this group that is working for accountability and change. Until next time, keep asking this group for more, because that's what they need to hear.